When people think of Indonesia, they usually picture the beaches of Bali, the busy traffic of Jakarta, or maybe even rendang or the padang food from the island of Sumatra. But tucked up in the highlands of North Sumatra, around a giant crater lake left by a supervolcano, there's another story, one very important to me: the Batak people. Hi, or as the Batak say, Horasss. I'm a Batak living in the down under parts of Australia, of Melbourne, far from the shores of Lake Toba. And in this video, I'm going to educate myself and try to explain a bit about the Batak history, culture, and how the Batak identity is changing today in just under 10 minutes. Let's see how well I do. So if you're Batak, Indonesian, or just curious about this other side of Indonesia, stick around. You might discover something new about where we come from and maybe where the Batak people are headed. Let's go. But wait a second, something feels a bit off. I don't know. Wow! That's a lot better. Let's get stuck into it. So, first of all, who exactly are the Batak? Batak is actually an umbrella term for several closely related ethnic groups in north-central Sumatra, including Toba, Karo, Simalungun, Pakpak, Odairi, Angkola, and the Mandailing people. We share similar languages from the Austronesia family, but each group has its own dialect, customs, and even style of houses and textiles. Traditionally, Batak people lived in the highlands around Lake Toba, one of the largest crater lakes in the world, formed by an ancient supervolcano eruption. Villages were organized into marga, or patrilineal clans, and that clan identity still shapes how we introduce ourselves, who we can marry, and how we behave at ceremonies. And for your information, my marga is the Malau clan. For most of history, we were relatively isolated in the mountains, farming rice and other crops, developing our own rituals, arts, and even a script for writing. Outsiders heard about the Batak relatively late, actually. European accounts in the 18th and 19th centuries describe an inland people with a strong warrior reputation and a rich ritual life. Historians think the Batak ancestors are part of the older Proto-Malayan Austronesian migrations that settled the Lake Toba region around 2,000 years ago, forming agricultural villages in the highlands. Over time, we absorbed influences from the Indian and Javanese traders. Hints of Buddhist and Shaivite ideas do show up in old temple sites and myths, but we never became a really big centralized kingdom. Instead, the Batak lands became a meeting point of different powers and religions. To the north and west were the Muslim Acehnese and the Malay Sultanates. To the south, the Minangkabau influences pushed Islam into Mandailing and Angkola areas. To the east, Dutch colonial interests grew along the plantation belt on the coasts and gradually pushed into the highlands. In the 19th and early 20th century, two huge religious shifts reshaped the Batak identity. In the south, many Mandailing and Angkola communities embraced Islam, especially around the time of the Padri War, which pushed for more pure Islamic practice and challenged older adat. In the Toba and Karo regions where I'm from, the Protestant and Catholic missionaries arrived, and Christianity spread so quickly that by the early 1900s it became core to the Batak identity there. One of the most famous figures from this era is Sisingamangaraja, a priest king from Toba Batak lands who led a long guerrilla resistance against the Dutch rule until his death in 1907. Today he is remembered as a national hero of Indonesia and a symbol of Batak resistance. Now, if you want to truly understand the Batak social life, there is one concept you truly have to know: the Dalihan Natole, literally meaning the three-legged stove. In Batak Toba terms, society is divided into three roles that are constantly interacting. One, the Mora or the Hula Hula, meaning your wife-giver side, the families you owe deep respect to. Two, the Kahangi, your clan peers or the same marga. And number 3, the anak boru, your wife receiver side, the families who serve and support your clan in rituals. The idea is that, like a 3-legged stove, society only stands upright when all 3 support each other. The hula hula are honored and fed with respect. The anak boru serve and help organize events, and the kahangi maintain solidarity within the clan. You see the dalihan natolu in everything. The weddings, the funerals, the conflict resolution, even in who gets to speak first at a party. There's even a proverb warning that if you don't respect your hula hula, life, symbolized by your tubers or ubi, will taste bland. On to traditions. The traditional Batak houses in many areas are raised wooden structures with steeply curved roofs and carved gables, often decorated with protective motifs and ancestral symbols. They are not just houses, they embody ideas about protection, hierarchy, and connection to our ancestors. Then there's the ulos, the hand-woven cloth that carries prayers, blessings, and social messages. Different colors and patterns are used for different occasions. Births, weddings, funerals, and specific ulos types are given to mark status and transitions. Like a widow receiving a particular ulos during a sarmatua funeral. Giving ulos is a way of physically wrapping someone in your hopes and your respect. Batak ceremonies are powered by gondang, an ensemble of drums, gongs, and wind instruments like the sarun. Each rhythm has a function, calling ancestors, blessing a couple, or marking stages of a ritual. So the music is sort of both entertainment and also a spiritual language for the Batak. Talking about life, death, and big gatherings, the Batak Adat is famous for how seriously it treats big life events. Weddings involve complex negotiations between the 3 Dalihan Natolu sides, public speeches, exchanges of ulos, and feasting that binds these 2 extended families together. And when I mean extended, they're really extended, not just the bride and the groom. Funerals, especially for elders who have many descendants, can become huge celebrations of life and kinship, with church services blended with Batak ritual, gondang performances, and carefully choreographed exchanges of cloths and gifts. These events reaffirm who belongs to whom and how the family is structured long after the person has passed. Myths, stereotypes, and modern realities of being a Batak. So if you try Googling Batak, you can even do it now, you'll eventually see the word cannibal. European travelers and colonial writers spread stories of Batak cannibalism, which became a kind of obsession in the 1800s. Now, modern researchers do point out that the evidence is pretty thin and often filtered through sensationalist colonial eyes, and that if such practices did exist, they were limited and ritualized, not everyday parts of the Batak life. What's more important is how Batak people see themselves today. Many Batak are now Christian, especially the Toba and Karo, like myself, or Muslim in Mandailing and Angkolo areas. But the older Adat ideas still continue to shape ethics, family roles, and ceremonies. Animism is still a big part and belief in Batak and Indonesian culture. Batak communities now have high literacy, thank God, and are strongly represented in urban professions, from teachers and civil servants to lawyers, engineers, musicians, and politicians. We pretty much do everything. In Indonesia, Batak people are no longer just mountain farmers. Many have moved to cities like Medan, Jakarta, and beyond, and Lake Toba itself is being promoted today as a major tourism destination, which does bring both economic opportunity and also pressure on the local culture and the environment. And having been to Lake Toba several times, sometimes a couple of tourists don't understand the idea of actually taking care of our land. Outside Indonesia, the Batak diaspora communities have formed in places like Europe, North America, and here in Australia, especially in cities like Melbourne and Brisbane. In Victoria, Batak groups organize church services, Christmas celebrations, and still host their own cultural events, sometimes even fundraising for disasters back home in North Sumatra, like the one not so far ago. You'll hear Batak hymns, see ulos worn over winter coats, and smell saksang and arsik being cooked still in suburban kitchens. And damn, they're still amazing. As a Batak living here, I'm constantly navigating 2 worlds. One, the individualistic, multicultural life of Australia, and a culture where your clan, your elders, and your obligations are always in the room with you, even if they're thousands of kilometers away geographically. Maybe you feel that too, whether you're Batak, Javanese, Tamil, from Makassar, or from any other diaspora. So that's the Batak people, from ancient highlands or around a supervolcano that gave birth to this amazing area of life, through colonial wars and religious change, to modern cities and diaspora communities like ours. If you're Batak, I'd love to hear, what does being Batak mean to you where you live now? And if you're not Batak, what surprised you the most about my culture? If you want to, drop a comment, share this with a friend who loves learning about cultures, and if there's interest, I can do a deeper dive into Batak myths, music, or that wild thing we call the Dalihan Natalu. There's so much more I haven't mentioned, but this hopefully gave some insight into our Batak life. Horasss, thanks for watching. God bless. Cheers. Until next time.